Have you ever been surrounded by people you've known for years, yet somehow felt completely alone? Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling emotionally drained, even though nothing bad actually happened? Or found yourself craving distance from places and people that once felt like home? If so, you may not be losing connection. You may be outgrowing your environment, because one of the strangest parts of growth is realizing that the people, places, and conversations that once felt comfortable no longer feel the same. Not because something became toxic overnight, but because you've changed. In this video, we're going to talk about 7 signs you've outgrown your environment. And the last one is a sign most people ignore until it starts affecting them emotionally, mentally, and even physically. The first sign is emotional exhaustion. You begin feeling drained around people you once felt completely comfortable with. At first, you may not understand why. Nothing obvious is happening. No conflict, no arguments, no major changes in behavior, but something still feels off. You leave conversations feeling tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. You feel mentally scattered, emotionally heavy, and sometimes even irritated without knowing the reason. It's not that people around you have become bad for you, it's that your inner world has changed. What once matched your emotional needs may no longer match the person you're becoming. You start craving deeper connection, more meaning, more honesty. And when that isn't present, your mind quietly registers the disconnect. The second sign is that conversations stop feeling meaningful. You notice yourself becoming quieter, not because you have nothing to say, but because what is being said no longer feels important to you. The same topics come up again and again, the same jokes, the same complaints, the same patterns that never seem to go anywhere, and slowly you realize you're physically there, but mentally elsewhere. You're listening, but not really engaged. This doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from change. Your mind starts searching for depth instead of repetition, understanding instead of distraction, growth instead of noise. And when your environment stays the same while your thinking evolves, silence starts feeling more natural than participation. The third sign is that solitude starts feeling more peaceful than company. And this is something many people misunderstand, because they assume wanting time alone means something is wrong. But sometimes it simply means your nervous system is finally getting space to breathe. In solitude, there is no pressure to explain yourself. No need to adjust your personality. No need to shrink your thoughts to fit the room. You can simply exist without performance. And that brings relief. But it's important to understand the difference. This is not about isolating yourself from life. It's about noticing where your mind feels most at ease. And sometimes that place becomes solitude, not because you hate people, but because peace becomes more valuable than constant emotional noise. The fourth sign is guilt for wanting more from life. This is where things get complicated emotionally, because as you grow, your desires start changing. You want better opportunities, better habits, better relationships, better environments, but instead of excitement, you feel guilt. You start questioning yourself. Am I asking for too much? Am I being ungrateful? Am I becoming distant from the people I care about? And so you slow yourself down, you silence parts of your ambition just to stay comfortable in familiar spaces. But growth always creates tension between who you were and who you're becoming. And that tension can feel like guilt if you're not prepared for it. The fifth sign is resistance from the people around you, and this one is often subtle. It doesn't always come as direct negativity. Sometimes it shows up in small comments, in jokes about your discipline, in doubt about your goals, in discomfort when you start changing your habits. At first, you might ignore it, but over time, the pattern becomes clearer, because when you grow, it changes the emotional balance of your relationships, and not everyone adjusts comfortably to that change. Some people are not reacting to who you are now, they are reacting to who you are no longer becoming. The sixth sign is feeling misunderstood more often. You explain yourself clearly, you express your thoughts openly, but somehow it still feels like people don't fully get you anymore. And this can be frustrating because you haven't stopped communicating. You've just started evolving. Your values are shifting. Your mindset is expanding. Your emotional needs are changing. But the environment around you may still be responding to an older version of you, the version that was quieter, more adaptable, less aware of boundaries, and when that gap forms, even simple conversations can feel slightly disconnected, not hostile, just misaligned. The seventh sign is feeling lonely in places that once felt like home. This is often the most difficult one to accept because everything looks the same on the outside, the same people, the same places, the same routines, but internally, something has shifted. You are no longer fully present in those spaces in the same way, and that creates a quiet kind of loneliness, not the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of not feeling emotionally aligned. And over time, that feeling becomes harder to ignore because familiarity is not the same as connection. Something can feel familiar and still no longer fit who you are becoming. And many people stay in that space too long, not because they are unaware, but because change feels uncomfortable. So they stay, even when a part of them already knows they've outgrown it. But here is something important to understand. Outgrowing an environment does not mean the environment was bad. It does not mean people were wrong for you. It does not mean your past loses meaning. It simply means you have changed. And when you change, your emotional needs change too. Your standards change. Your awareness changes, and your tolerance for certain environments naturally shifts. One of the hardest mistakes people make is trying to stay emotionally attached to environments they've already outgrown internally. They ignore their feelings. They suppress their growth. They force themselves to stay where they no longer fit. And over time, that creates frustration. You feel stuck. You feel unseen. You feel disconnected from yourself. Not because something is wrong with you, but because something inside you is asking for change. And when you finally listen to that feeling, something important happens. You begin to understand yourself more deeply. You start recognizing what brings you peace and what slowly drains you. And once that clarity arrives, everything starts to shift because you stop forcing alignment and you start choosing it, not out of arrogance, but out of self-awareness, out of honesty, out of growth. So take a moment and reflect on your own life. Have you been feeling emotionally disconnected from environments that once felt comfortable? Have conversations started to feel draining? Have you found yourself enjoying solitude more than before? And have you been silently questioning whether you still belong in certain spaces? If so, you're not alone in that experience. A lot of people go through this stage of growth quietly, not because it's rare, but because it's hard to put into words. And sometimes just hearing it spoken out loud helps you understand what you've been feeling all along. If this resonated with you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, because your experience might help someone else understand their own. And if you found value in this, you can subscribe for more videos like this, because growth can feel isolating at times, but understanding it makes the journey a lot easier to walk through.